Hello everyone, happy Guru Rinpoche Day. Om Aho Vajra Guru Pema Siddhi Ho. Om Aho Vajra Guru Pema Siddhi Ho. Om Aho Vajra Guru Pema Siddhi Ho. Very grateful for the lamas in the US who are praying for the benefit of all sentient beings on this special occasion falling on Halloween. So yeah, the lunar calendar and the solar calendar are two separate calendars for those who don't know. And in this year, 2025, Wood Snake, it falls on Halloween. And I got my t-shirt for going to the gym 4 days in 1 week. It was not easy, to say the least. The last time I've been to the gym or class for exercising so frequently was probably more than 10 years ago. Okay. So I did want to do a part 2 about the Pakpalha lineage and some general thoughts on supernatural events like reincarnation, because a lot of, naturalists or materialists, they don't believe in this idea that people become somebody else in their next lifetime in another human form, right? Like it's easy to go all Faustian and say, oh, yeah, and then he became a monster sometimes, because it's a simple way to just underwrite your anxiety about this bardo concept, like you spend some time in the ether and then you become material again, and then you have consciousness and ethics, etc. Anyways, so this book, Forging the Golden Urn by Dr. Max Oigman from 2018, has a really nice timeline at the end of the book. I don't know why he put it at the end. I feel like it should be in the beginning, because not everyone knows what went down in the 1700s in Inner Asia. So I think his book is definitely for those who are in advanced studies of Inner Asian history, because he just assumes that everyone knows like how big a threat the Mongolians were back in the day, but people do not know that. They do not know that. So there's a lot of like violent events related to the borders that the emperor tried to quell, and then that kind of sparked the need to control the Buddhist practice of identifying reincarnated lamas, which in turn had a lot of control and power over people in borderland regions. And so there is a chapter before the chronology of events, which I just finished, called Amdo was Speak and Code, which means the people from Amdo, it's a certain region of Tibet, the people from Amdo speak in a certain way that other outsiders don't understand. And then the second part to that saying, it's a popular saying in Tibet, is that Kampas feign ignorance. Kampas feign ignorance. And I thought that was such an interesting parallel. So Kampas are a different group of Tibetans who are closer to um, the lowlands, so they don't have to live a harsh winter as much. But yeah, I think there is a lot of truth to that, even in the 21st century. So they were using that phrase in a way to refer to the locals, how they react differently to the policies issued from the central government. At that time, it was the Qing dynasty. And the book really emphasizes how the central government succeeded at least 50% in their efforts to use this, because statistically speaking, at least half of the lineages that were active in Inner Asia at the time that were surveyed, they accepted the method of the Golden Urn, which is to pick the incarnation through a gold device dispatched from the central government. Okay. And then he concludes to a bigger claim in regards to politics, which I don't know if I agree or not, but the base research is very solid, at least from the linguistic perspective. He definitely learned all the languages to read all the documents that were available. And there's a lot of debate now today as well about how corrupt people are when they're choosing the next generation of lamas, which is, the ongoing hotness of this topic. But yeah, from my observation, this is something outside of the book. Amdo people, so His Holiness Garchen Rinpoche is from Amdo, and he manages a different subdivision of Tibetan Buddhism. But yeah, like I have not really seen the dynamics of Tibetans interacting to that extent where they're calling each other regionally. But I do see that Amdo people seem to have the shorter end of the stick in terms of natural resources or people giving an F about them. And so that is a key part to this book, which he kind of touches on, but he doesn't really emphasize like how important that perhaps from his perspective, because he's not a Lama, he might think, oh, you guys really appreciate this Lama institution because you don't have any other way to make money, right? But then from a believer's perspective, they would really emphasize the fact that, look, even though we have such little resources, we are still practicing this really difficult thing. And even if you give us a gold piece of, bowl, it doesn't really affect our faith in the Buddha Dharma. It's just another gold thing. We have a lot of gold. We have a lot of gold items, but we don't really think that's like the most important thing of the lineages of the Geluk tradition. So this book is about the Geluk tradition. Amdo is a real place that is currently in the People's Republic of China. But if you ask people who are not like indoctrinated in that education system, they will feel differently about the geography. And that's another thing that leads me to thinking about Bardo and Poa. So Poa is a practice. This is just me going off of this book, like what it inspired me to think about. Poa is a practice that really adept tantric practitioners can achieve in determining where they're reborn in their next life. So then if you're really advanced and you read all these experiences about people who are being subjected to this Golden Urn test from the central government, then obviously you'll believe that, no, this is not the final word to this incarnation process. But then if you're not that adept, you're just a regular Joe, and you think, oh, there's a gold bowl that that has 3 different names in it, then yeah, it does add legitimacy to this incarnation identification process. It's kind of like an iPhone, like if someone has an iPhone in China, this was like a huge deal. Oh, you're suddenly like higher than everybody else who uses an Android. That became a really hot topic this year. So the Golden Urn was the iPhone of the 1800s. And in the chronology of events, it doesn't really mention Poa as a historical event. So that's another thing. If you think humans have the ability to do Poa and like determine where they're reborn, then obviously it should be part of the chronology of events. But because Dr. Max is such a serious European social scientist, he's not going to say, oh, Poa is a historical event. And personally, I do think even in your current lifetime, you can change your current circumstances with your, imagination and visualization, etc. But you don't really call it that, right? You don't call it Poa because it's such a serious thing to be, experiencing death just to be reborn as the next generation of Dharma leader, protector of a certain group of people. Like, where do Amdo people get their income if global warming is going to destroy all the pastures? That is just like the existential question that I'm just going to throw back to you guys. And if you can buy his book, Forging the Golden Urn by Columbia University Press. And if you know experiences of people practicing Poa, you can also vlog about it, I guess. It's kind of difficult to document because you don't really see the results of their thinking their feelings until years later, right? Because it takes years and years. One of my friends, this is like the icing of the cake, he was going by the name that started with a P. So I just assumed, okay, his name starts with P. And I was like, okay, I know you as this person. And then recently he was going through a huge life event and he felt like he needed to tell me everything about his life. And then he said, you know, actually, my name given by my father is Bodh. So in South Asia, Bodh is short for Buddha, Bodha. Like in Nepal, it's the Bodha Stupa. And he is not from Nepal. He is not from Tibet. He is not from Mongolia. And he looks white, okay? And his dad gave him the name Bodh Raj, which basically can mean the rule of Buddha, you know? And he comes from like a relatively economically backward place. Like if global warming hits that place, they're also going to be, you know, gone for sure. So it was just such a beautiful revelation for me that his name was that, even though the circumstances were very difficult when he was revealing this, he still had to work at post apocalyptic flood sites in the South Asian region. And he is not interested in any golden urn or central government identifying his reincarnation, but the spiritual sovereignty persists. So thank you guys so much for listening. These are my thinkings and musings on Guru Rinpoche Day, and keep practicing your mantras. Take care. Bye.